If you're thinking about going on a camping road trip and wondering how to plan the route and spending, this video is for you.
We're Mike and Fiona, a newly retired expat British couple living in Virginia. We're on a mission to visit all 63 of the USA's national parks.
We're about to embark on a 15,000-mile, 3-month tent camping road trip to Alaska. In this video, we'll share how we planned the route and our spending plan for the trip. Sometimes I'll say route and sometimes I'll say route.
Yeah.
Based on my where I grew up.
We've spent the last 8 summer vacations visiting US national parks. We'd pick a region of the USA, fly in, rent a car or a camper van and go on a 3-week, 3,000 to 4,000 mile road trip taking in multiple national parks. In this way, we've visited a total of 41 of the 63 US national parks. It's been a great way to visit the parks, but it's left us with a number of national parks that didn't fit well into our chosen regions, or we skipped them for other reasons.
Well, now that we're both retired, our next trip will be to drive to Alaska to visit the Alaskan national parks and use the drive up there and a little bit down for some of the time to visit other parks that we've missed in the past.
We'll use this handy national park display our friends gave us to give you an overview of our challenge ahead. The display is laser cut wood and is supplied with little green trees that we can drop into recesses in the display when we visited the park. As you can see, the non-contiguous states, Alaska, Hawaii and American Samoa, are represented out of their true location. Alaska's 8 national parks are shown here, and you can see we've already visited 2 of them, Glacier Bay and Denali. We cruised the Inner Passage in 2019 and camped in Denali for a few nights at the end of the cruise. Unfortunately, like about 70% of visitors to Denali National Park, we never got to see the mountain, which by the way is again named Mount McKinley. We did enjoy the park and got to see some wildlife, so Denali is definitely in our plan for our upcoming camping road trip. And if it's cloudy, we'll take a flight seeing tour to make sure we see Mount McKinley. You can see we also have some Midwestern parks we've never got to, so our route to Alaska is going to take in these parks. We'll also visit a couple of these northwestern parks, North Cascades and Olympic, on our way back from Alaska. This plan will leave us just these 5 Northwest National Parks, these 2 Northern National Parks, and American Samoa to visit next year. So that's the grand plan for our upcoming camping road trip. We'll drive from Newport News, Virginia to Alaska, visiting 10 national parks as we drive through the lower 48, with 6 of these being first-time park visits for us. When we get to Alaska, we'll use a mixture of driving, scheduled flights, bush planes and boat tours to see all the Alaska national parks.
Well, when we first started planning, we thought we'd build in a lot of flexibility, but it didn't really work out that way. We found that the season is so short in Alaska that we had to book accommodation, flights and tours months in advance. Once we'd made these commitments, we thought we may as well book much of the other activities. So our route, at least to Alaska, is pretty much set. We can make changes on the fly. For example, if a storm is forecasted, we can cancel a campground and book into a hotel. But nearly all our accommodations on the way to and in Alaska, they're all now booked. Now here's our route to Alaska.
We leave our condo in Newport News, Virginia on Friday, May the 15th, 2026, and drive 3 hours to our local park, Shenandoah National Park. 3 of our children and 4 grandchildren will join us for this first stop on our journey. We'll be in Shenandoah for 2 nights. Fiona and I will then be on our own as we drive up to Cleveland, Ohio to visit the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. This is our first visit to this park, so I've identified it in red. It's park number 42 on our way to the 63 US national parks. We'll have 3 days in the Cleveland area. From there, we head west to Indiana Dunes National Park for a couple of days. We'll also overnight in a hotel in Chicago to take in a Cubs game at Wrigley Field. We then head due south to Kentucky for the Mammoth Cave National Park. We'll be camping in the Mammoth Cave National Park for 2 days, and we also have a cave tour booked for our time there and a visit to a local bourbon distillery. You can see our route gets a bit squirrely here. We head to St. Louis for the Gateway Arch National Park and then south to Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas. I'm looking forward to a relaxing 3 days camping in Hot Springs before a long 3-day drive to Badlands National Park in South Dakota. We'll probably overnight in hotels in Kansas City and Sioux Falls along the way. We loved our visit to Badlands in 2017, but we failed to visit nearby Wind Cave National Park on that trip. We'll correct that omission this trip. We also visited Grand Teton National Park in 2017, but felt we didn't stay long enough. We'll be there for another 2 days on this trip. Yellowstone is adjacent to Grand Teton and is absolutely stunning. We'll spend 3 days in Yellowstone before heading up to Canada. We've heard wonderful things about Banff and Jasper, and this is a great opportunity to visit these 2 Canadian national parks for 3 days. From here we'll drive through Alberta, British Columbia and the Yukon up to Alaska on the Alcan Highway. We'll use mostly hotels and Airbnbs on this 7-day drive to Fairbanks for the Midnight Sun Festival on June the 20th. Our plan for our time in Alaska gets pretty complicated, but it is mostly booked and we'll cover those plans for touring Alaska and the route back home in future videos. Based on this outbound route and our Alaska plan, we think we've been able to make a fairly accurate estimate of our spending for this 3-month camping road trip.
But before we get into that, I just wanted to show you something I came up with to try and improve our videos. We're learning as we go about making these videos, and we're just trying to make them better incrementally. One thing we've struggled with is to try and remember what to say and talk coherently at the same time. I did a little research and decided to make us a teleprompter, and this is it. It cost all of $5 to make. It's just a black binder with the cover cut out to accept a pane of glass from an old picture frame. And then I removed the rings from the ring binder and downloaded the software Teleprompter Pro onto my iPad. I can write a rough script or bullet points on my MacBook, and then it syncs with the iPad, and it also syncs with my phone, so I can use my phone to remote control it. Pretty cool, eh? Let me show you in a bit more detail how this works. So it's just a pane of glass. My Sony A7R4 is on a little tabletop tripod behind the glass. It wouldn't work in its current state, but I've left the black cover off so that you can see what's going on. Here it is with the old t-shirt wrapped around the camera and teleprompter, and there's the flip screen of my Sony camera that I can line things up with. And this is what you get to see as you sit down in the chair, or we sit down in the chair. You can see the teleprompter actually is a mirror image, so that when we look at the script, we can read it while we're looking straight into the camera. Anyway, we thought we'd try that out for this next bit of the video, so let's see whether it improves our performance as we talk into the camera.
Once we had an outline plan for the route, accommodations and activities, we could build our estimated budget for the trip.
Fiona and I are avid budgeters. When we got married in '89, we combined our finances, but we didn't have a household budget. Our finances were a complete mess. Happily, we always managed to out-earn our sloppiness, but it was really stressful. We started budgeting when we emigrated to the USA in 1999, and we've run our household finances together with a budget spreadsheet for the last 27 years. We sit down on the last day of every month to confirm that firstly, we've spent what we planned to spend in each of our 24 budget categories, and secondly, to agree on the spend for the coming month.
When we first started writing down what we were going to spend, before we spent it was pretty uncomfortable. We were house poor and had to make tough spending decisions every month. Still, we stuck to it and we got better at it. And as our income went up and outgoings went down, we found more margin in our budget and we started to load up our retirement savings. This basically happened after our children had graduated from college and we'd almost paid off our mortgage.
Understanding our household spending was critical to knowing when we could comfortably retire. I'm absolutely certain I would still be working if we didn't know every detail of our household spend. It's that big a deal.
Okay, so of course, one of our 24 budget categories is vacations, and we've estimated we'll spend $390 per day on this 3-month camping road trip. That doesn't include the money we'll continue to spend back home in our condo on our HOA, utilities, insurance, etc. It's what we're going to spend on the road.
Yeah, of course, your situation and your travelling style may be very different from ours. I'm sure there are retired couples who will be horrified at the thought of roughing it on just $390 per day on a 3-month vacation. I'm also sure there are retired couples who couldn't afford that. Anyway, these are our numbers, but we'll need to break down that $390 into subcategories so you can see what goes into and how it might line up with your travelling style and budget.
So here is a breakdown of the camping road trip expenses. We've estimated that our groceries, our household expenditure, is going to stay at $1,700 a month, which is about $55 a day. This is going to include everything like toiletries, cleaning supplies.
Yeah, that's kind of what we normally spend in a regular month on that item at the house, so we assume we're going to spend it on the road. We also spend about $1,100 a month or $36 a day on social and dining out. We'll just spend that also when we're on the road.
Now the campground fees are in the budget for all the way to Alaska, and within Alaska we haven't really planned for the trip back yet where we're staying, but we've estimated, and that's going to be about $32 a day.
Yeah, that ranges from free to maybe $65 for the most expensive campground. But we also have 5 or 6 hotels or Airbnb at each month, so we've estimated $900. In fact, that's pretty much an actual, and that works out at $29 a day for hotels and Airbnb.
Now we're going to be using a lot of fuel to get to Alaska, around Alaska and back again. So that has been estimated to be about $45 a day.
Yeah, we worked that out. We're thinking we'll do about 15,000 miles on the trip, maybe 15,000 more than we would have done around Newport News, Virginia. So that's where that number comes from. We're assuming we'll be paying close to $5 a gallon for it. Certainly when we get into Alaska, it's probably going to be more than that. So that's the extra fuel. The extra dining out, we've granted ourselves a little bit extra because we're on the road. We do cook at the campground. We often have breakfast at the campground and an evening meal or lunch. We make a pack-up lunch, but we'll probably dine out more on the road. So that's the $64 extra dining out that we've accommodated.
So we experienced this in Florida because we had an unseasonably cold spell being in a campground in the evening, and there was a fire ban, so we did eat out a little bit more.
Yeah, and then the flight seeing and flights we're going to be flying commercial around Alaska in some cases, and also bush planes and flight seeing tours. One of those is nearly $2,000 a head, so you can imagine that adds up pretty quickly. It adds up to $58 a day.
And then tours and tickets, Michael's gone ahead and we're seeing so many different things, a variety, baseball games. Yeah. And then more baseball games.
Yeah, we are seeing 2 baseball games.
We are seeing 2 baseball games, but we're also going to visit the hot springs. So we are going to be having a fun time, and that has turned out to be about $71 a day.
Right, so that's a total, as we mentioned earlier, of $390 per day, or just over 12,000 a month. Over a 3-month trip, that's about $36,000 for the entire trip.
About 28,000 of that is in addition to what we would normally spend at home. Are we crazy to spend this kind of money on a camping trip to Alaska for 3 months? Please like and subscribe and follow us on our journey.